4 continental teams, 3 challenges, 2 stunning locations, and 1 winner. This is the Obsidian Team Challenge. Welcome to New Zealand's Southern Lakes for Winter Games NZ, a celebration of winter sport, and this year, for the first time, the host of the International Obsidian Challenge as the finale of the Games. 3 teams of 8 athletes migrated south from Europe, Asia and the Americas to take on the hosts, Oceania, in 3 competitions: Big Air, Park Challenge and Backcountry Freestyle. The athletes representing each continent are the finest park and pipe riders in the world. They are the most competitive, creative and stylish skiers and snowboarders on the planet. And while their individual performances will contribute, ultimately, the winning team will be the one who can become greater than the sum of their singular talents and work together. This reflects the spirit and values of Sir Ian Edgar, the founder of the Winter Games and the namesake of the Edgar Challenge Trophy. The first event was Big Air, and the headline was that the Americas had aced it with victories in men's and women's freeski and women's snowboard. So the Americas lead ahead of Europe, who had an athlete in every final. The good news was that after a big slam in Big Air, Nick Huber had been given the all-clear for Park Challenge, and Europe's human megaphone was back and ready for action. Oceania had had a disappointing first event on a jump they knew well, so hopefully the tide would turn on the rails.
Definitely ridden these rails hundreds and hundreds of times, so yeah, I think everyone's going to be pretty confident.
Asia, stricken with illness and injury, had finished 4th in Big Air, but were hoping for redemption in the Park Challenge. The format is totally new, so understanding it and using it to your team's advantage would be key. It gave a nod to the dancehall contests of the 50s and 60s. There were 2 one-hour jams, one for snowboarding, one for skiing. The jams would start, and then after 20 minutes, the judges would sound an air horn and eliminate the 2 lowest ranked athletes. That continued every 10 minutes until after 50 minutes, only the top 4 remained to battle it out for the podium spots. The judging was based on each athlete's entire body of work. Falls were not counted. Instead, the judges were looking for the biggest tricks, so it promoted technical and progressive riding. Athletes were hiking up the course, which meant that teammates could help each other by carrying gear and hyping each other up. Liam Brearley picked up in Park Jam exactly where the Americas had left off in Big Air, dominating. Who can say nose blunt backflip switch up through the waterfall to 270 on, 270 off quickly? Hopefully the judges could. Cam Spalding hit the snow running and locked in a super tech line that made the judges sit up and take notice. Lovely casual ender too. Sven Thorgren was starting to find his groove with a backflip through the waterfall and a switch backside 270 onto the down bar. Riding to the beat of the same drum, Tian Collins dropped in straight behind Sven Thorgren. And we got a glimpse of things to come from the World Cup Crystal Globe winner. Nick Huber is a man who knows how to flirt with the judges, and being the first rider to take on the banana rail illustrated it perfectly. His timing was impeccable as well. The first set of rankings came in and Huber was leading the pack ahead of Liam Brearley and Sven Thorgren. Both Team Asia riders, Ryoma and Zensei, were languishing in 7th and 8th. Surprisingly, in the women's, there were 2 Momos. Momo Suki of Japan was out injured though, which left Momo Maha to effortlessly open the course. Annika Morgan laid on the style for Europe. Especially with this front lip. Mia Brooks was right behind her and looked like she was on autopilot. Having grown up riding rails in Britain's snowdomes, she is arguably the best and certainly the most comfortable female rail rider in the world. Mary Fukada unfortunately scratched her first run, heaping pressure on top of misery for Team Asia. Jasmine Baird was getting tech with a switch front lip 270 out, while Momo was getting through some laps and got this lovely 50-50 front 3 out. So, no surprises in the first women's rankings. Europe on top, Jasmine ahead of Oceania's Jess and Cool, with Mary Fukada ahead of Momo Maher, who was pinned to the foot of the rankings. In the men's, Tian Collins had a majestical run that was always going to lift him out of 5th. Dane Menzies, knowing the cut was coming, threw down a lovely half-cab tail press to backside 360 out. Ryoma Kimata was in need of tricks and finally got a break with a switch front board to 450 out. 2 minutes before the first cut, Tian had moved into the lead. Dane had leapfrogged Ryoma and Zensei had overtaken Liam in 8th. Zensei, sensing that he needed to put the bubble battle to bed, went for the banana rail and missed. Liam saw his chance and took it with an absolute scorcher. Board slide to pretzel, corked 630 off the banana, and he wasn't done. No question, the Canadian would be moving up in the rankings. Needing something big, Mary Fukada unveiled her switch game with a switch front board 270 out to switch blunt 270 out. And straight away she moved up the rankings into 3rd. Jess McGregor, who'd been sending a wildcat out of the banana in practice, under-rotated this one and took a big digger. Despite walking away, Jess was unable to carry on. So Cool Wakashima found herself in last place and shouldering all of the pressure for Oceania. Credit where credit's due, Cool stepped up instantly and launched out of the banana rail with a board slide underflip 450. A huge trick which meant a big move in the standings, up into 2nd place behind Mia Brooks, ahead of Mary, Jasmine and Momo, while the injured Jess McGregor left the women's leaderboard. In the men's, Liam Brearley's run had pulled him off the bottom, which meant Zensei was out. Ryoma in 7th now needed to get busy, but got hung up on a front flip out of the banana. On a roll, Liam Brearley pulled out his Fred Astaire routine on the waterfall. With 3 minutes before the next cut, Tian is still in 1st. Cam and Liam had moved the Americas up, while Dane and Ryoma had to fight to avoid the cut. The Americas were on the same trajectory in the women's, with Momo logging her cleanest run yet.
Team America again.
But Mary was repeating tricks and not improving them. She needed more. Back in the men's, Dane knew he was head-to-head with Ryoma and went in hard. It wasn't his best run, but he kept the judges busy. Ryoma, meanwhile, had one final chance at the front flip and had to squat it out. It wouldn't be enough. So at the half-hour mark, Ryoma was out in the men's. Suddenly aware that he was in the bottom too, Nick Huber stepped up and missed. Huber then went down again. There was a question mark over his momentum. Dane saw his chance to finish Huber and ruthlessly ended him with this back one on, cab 3 off the banana rail. In the women's, there was a 3-way battle unfolding between Momo, Mary and Jasmine Baird to avoid the next cut. Jazz played the switch card on each rail, but was a little ragged. Momo stepped it up with a half cab on, back 3 off, and was heading up the table. Knowing the only thing that could save her would be the spectacular, Mary had a swing at the side hit. But it didn't work out and her fate was sealed. So at the 40-minute mark, 6th place was eliminated. Mary was out for the women, and having started so strong, Nick Huber hadn't been able to keep pace and bid farewell.
I think I went too hard in the beginning. I went too much in training. I was just out of juice in the end. Classic.
Things were now moving quickly, and Cam Spalding had been caught resting on his laurels and suddenly found himself at the bottom of the ladder, so set about making amends in style. Dane Menzies had already battled 3 eliminations, and on the strength of this run, was ready to go 4. Tian, it seemed, was only just getting started, and he twisted everyone's melon off the banana rail. Look at this control. Beautiful 6:30 out. Sven Thorgren had designs on the top spot though, and went for the banana rail, boosting a huge tuck-knee wildcat. That made the judges look, and then he made them swoon at the bottom. Nollie Hardway 270. At 45 minutes, Oceania had the top of the leaderboard locked. Sven in 4th, sandwiched between the Americas. Responding, Liam Brearley went back to on, corked 6:30 off the banana, and it moved him straight into the lead ahead of Tian. In the women's, Jasmine Baird had to step up if she wanted to keep pace, and a switchboard slide pretzel 270 out to a cab 270 front board was a start. Europe were undoubtedly in the driving seat in the women's snowboarding though. Annika Morgan looking oh so casual. But it was Mia who was making a mockery of the setup, making it look quite simply like child's play. Well, technically she is still only 16 years old. When the air horn came for the final elimination, it was a double blow for the Americas, with both Jasmine Baird and Cam Spalding going out. It was now a straight fight for the podium between the remaining riders. Sven Thorgren banked another wonderfully tech run, a cab 2 on and off. Into that Nollie Hardway, so blind, backside 270 on, 270 off. And Huber screamed, "Svenergy!" The Swede moved straight into first. Tian had slipped from first to third. Maybe he was making it look too easy. Liam Brearley was back and melting minds. Back 3 to Pritt's front 1. We now had peak Svenergy. Front 2 on, 450 off. Into a backside 360, 50-50. A seemingly bottomless bag of tricks emptied endlessly and consistently onto the course.
That's what a leader does. He leads.
It would be first or fourth for Dane. He was all in on the banana rail, but slipped off. Liam came out swinging for his last run. Backlip 450 out. To switch front board, switch up. It was a massive clutch run, but it wasn't enough. The final ranking saw Sven Thorgren take his 2nd win after his victory in Big Air, Liam Brearley in 2nd, and Tian Collins ahead of Dane Menzies in 3rd. In the women's, Mia Brooks turned it up again for the final 10 minutes. Front board, pretzel 270. And then she lined up one of the crown jewels of this session, a cab 3 to 50-50. Annika Morgan drove through a stunning backlip, stalled 270 out. Cool was still battling the banana though. Half cab to backside rodeo 5. So close, and definitely part of the winner's conversation if she could land it.
How are the energy levels?
Good. I'm channeling my inner energy.
Mia wanted to put it out of reach though. A casual trick up top, and then she released the Kraken on the down bar. Cab 3 on, cab 3 off.
Oh, no way! That's insane.
It had been a masterclass from start to finish for the Brit. Cool had one last chance, half cab to Wildcat. It was a slightly watered down version of the original rodeo attempt, but still so impressive. It wasn't enough though. Mia had led from start to finish. Annika Morgan's tech trumped Cool's crowd-pleasing for second, and Momo Maher took fourth. A quick points tally after the snowboarding showed that Europe and the Americas were tied on 39 points. It would be a tense free skiing park jam.
Ruby, we gotta go. We gotta get our act together.
Having witnessed the snowboarders' fatigue firsthand, the skiers started at a more sustainable pace. Julia Tano started with a pretzel 450 off the flat bar and a glorious 270 on to the down bar. Megan Oldham was on the same page with a beautiful 450 off the flat bar. Dropping switch, Annie Carava made it a strong start for Team Europe. Pretz 270 off up top and a lip slide on the down bar. But this is Ruby Andrews' house. She went 270 on to left 450 out and then mixed up the rotations with a right 270 on to the down bar. Over in the men's, Max Moffat opened like a coiled spring. Corked right 630 out of the banana. Then a 270 on, pretzel off. A very solid start for the Americas. Ferdy Dahl stepped up and charged onto the course for a high-speed switch up on the waterfall to a lazy 270 bring back on the down bar. Ahol dropped the switch card. 270 on, 450 off. And a 270 on and off the down bar. The first rankings came in with Ferdy ahead of Max and Alex, with Oceania's Ben Barclay and Asia's Ollie Nichols with work to do. In the women's, Ruby had a commanding lead ahead of the Europeans, while Nanaho, a big air specialist, was struggling to get to grips with the steel. The America's Elena Gaskill was yet to bank a clean run, and time was slipping through her fingers, so this immaculate 630 off the flat bar was the answer she was looking for. Illness had taken out Kiho Sugawara, so Nanaho Kiriyama was the sole female free skier for Team Asia. Her Pretz 270 was a little short and she missed the front swap. Without at least one clean trick, she would almost certainly face the cut. Jen Fuji put in this beautiful 450 off the side hit into this monstrous 450 to the last millimetres of the down bar. He was just getting started. His teammate Ollie Nichols, meanwhile, was in danger of going out if he couldn't step up. And he didn't, so Ollie was out with only 7 women. There was no female elimination. Ahol was now the definition of someone in sync with their mojo, at his creative best, transferring between the top rails, slathering a butter onto the down bar, and finishing with a switch lip 450 out. Going toe-to-toe with Ahol at the top of the standings, Ferdy Dahl went huge off the banana and then ignored the kicker at the bottom for extra creative points. Jen Fuji was sat in the drop spot with 1 minute to go, but he got the hammer down with this switch 270 on, misty 450 off, and then he took a quick break mid-course before a 270 on and a corked 5 out of the wall ride. It was enough to move him up into 4th. Una Kangas was now in trouble. Una needed something big and greased this switch 720 tail grab. But without really engaging with the rails, he couldn't compete. So Una and Nanaho were out at the half-hour mark. Only 6 men and 6 women left with 2 cuts to go. Sitting in 6th, Annie Carava had 10 minutes to impress the judges. This switch ski slide at Pretzel 270 was a strong push that saw her jump over Daisy Thomas into 5th. Backed into a corner, Daisy wheelied onto the course and stomped a 450 off the flat bar. But then she fell on her backslide safety grab. Sat in 6th, Ben Barclay had one last chance. He took a run up for the banana rail and missed. With the help of Ruby Andrews as her ski caddy, Daisy sprinted back for one more run. She dropped as the air horn blew and landed this 450 out of the flat bar. She even got the backslide safety grab, but it wasn't enough. A bitter pill for Oceania, losing both Ben Barclay and Daisy Thomas at the 40-minute mark. Ferdinand Dahl was first in after the horn, determined to overhaul A-Hall at the top of the rankings, and it worked. The big Norwegian was pushed up almost instantly. The wily fox that he is, Finn Billis had worked out that the judges were rewarding riders who covered the whole course and set about the banana rail with a right 630 blunt to a 270 switch up on the down bar. Arriving at the business end of the session, Gen Fuji had timed his rise perfectly, and he hit the judges with a heavy run, finishing with the 270 front swap, 270 off. But having sat comfortably in the top three from the very beginning, Max Moffat suddenly found himself in the drop zone with only 3 minutes to respond. The game was up for the American. In the women's, Elena dropped in switch for a 270 onto the waterfall. She then locked in this lip slide to hold her position. Nick Huber, meanwhile, had gone into overdrive as Julia and Annie's ski caddy.
Damn, teamwork right there, Team Europe.
And the effect was immediate. Annie Carava, under pressure in fifth, rummaged around in the bottom of her trick bag for this Super Tech right Pretz 270 off the flat bar. It moved Annie up into third, but left her European teammate Julia Tanno in fifth. It was do or die time now for Megan Oldham. A 450 off the top rail and a 270 onto the down bar. It moved her straight up into third. Julia knew it was time to throw down, and she busted out the second 630 off the flat bar for the women. It was a statement trick that pushed her up into fourth, but Annie back down into fifth. After a fantastic battle, Annie Carava was knocked out in the women's, and having sat so pretty for so long, it was a shock to see Max Moffat shown the door. Julia Tanno wanted that podium spot for Europe and went back to the 630 off the flat bar. It worked, and she climbed above Megan Oldham into third. Then, in the final minute, Megan Oldham went all in and found her own 630 off the flat bar and doubled down with a 270 on, Pretz 270 off. It would be enough to see off Julia Tanno's challenge. But it didn't reel in Elena Gaskill, who'd got through so much shredding, but the fatigue was starting to show, and she bowed out on this slam. So the untouchable Ruby Andrews took the win with a solid performance from start to finish, ahead of the America's Elena Gaskill and Megan Oldham. As soon as the clock struck 50 minutes, A-Hall unleashed. It was like he'd had another gear all along, finding new transfers and spraying tech all over the course. Sat in fourth, Finn Billis was trying to ski his way onto the podium, and he started with a perfectly timed 8.10 out of the banana, and then he slowed it down for a butter front swap 270 out. It moved him straight up into third. And just as Jen saw his name drop out of the top three, he fired into the side hit with this left 7. That was followed by a 270 front swap, finishing with the tail slide shifty 180 on the wall ride. It was enough to restore the status quo. There was no debating who would fill the top 2 spots though, as Ferdinand Dahl and A-Hall went toe-to-toe. The Norwegian knew it would take everything he had to beat Alex and lent into a bio 8.10 off the banana. He followed that with a butter 450. Unfortunately, he slipped off early. A-Hall seemed to be creating a wall of sound with an endless onslaught of new combos and tricks that were all perfectly executed. But Ferdy wasn't giving up. A front swap gap on the waterfall 270 out and a switch 450 on to the down rail. It was an all-time classic battle, but A-Hall just edged Ferdy Dahl to the top spot, while Jen Fuji held Finn Billis off for third. That means the Americas win the Park Challenge, just 27 ahead of Europe on 28 and Oceania on 34. The cost of injuries and illness weighing heavily on Asia for 47. So, no surprises on the overall Obsidian leaderboard. After 2 fourth-place finishes, the dream is all but over for Team Asia. At the other end, the Americas are top on 50 points, Europe only 7 points adrift, and Oceania are still very much in the running with 65. The final event is backcountry freestyle and will demand teams work together, showing courage, patience and strategic thinking, and of course, freakish talent on skis and snowboards. We'll see you there.